Another trick that is hidden in casual, everyday conversations with untaken people is leading the chat in such a way that it quickly wraps you into the feeling and definition of being poor, weak, helpless, and the like. It is hard to spot because the same person who makes you feel that way very quickly after starts to build your motivation and becomes your supporter and cheerleader. They kill your actual, real, humane drive and inner motivation and replace it with an external, narcissistic drive and the need for external validation, and through that, narcissistic external control. Because it all happens so fast and is done so seamlessly and skillfully in many cases, you don't even notice that it happened. An N person, also in the majority of cases, doesn't realize fully, what they did. In some cases they know exactly what they do, and these are the cases where the narcissistic consciousness has taken over their consciousness too, and there is no denial in their mind about what they do. They act consciously, in line with the narcissistic consciousness. Just because the actions of some narcissistic people are not conscious, though, it doesn't mean that they are weaker. Often, they are much stronger and much more confusing than when the actions are done consciously. Just because the person thinks that they are a good person, it doesn't mean that they are not a narcissistic person. They are lying to themselves, while the narcissistic consciousness works through them covertly. When it is not fully conscious, it only means that the narcissistic person has a very strong denial and coverage system for their conscious part, because they were programmed with strong moral rules and religious rules. They do very emotionally and psychologically cruel things, but in a covert and hidden way, because it must be done in such a way that they are even lying to themselves. It is covered even from themselves. They might suspect that they do something bad, but they just shake it off onto other people and don't own it. This is the most covert narcissistic possession and the hardest to spot. The manipulation is done so covertly and insidiously that if you don't leave and don't know about it, all their narcissistic mind control energy and mechanisms are injected into your back little by little, over time, when you have no idea about it. Then you get slowly transformed into a monster. It is so strong because the narcissistic person you are dealing with is repulsed by their own behaviors, thoughts, and words, and they must quickly give them to you to feel that they deserve the definition of a good religious person, a good decent person, or a protector, healer, and savior. They establish an energetic connection to you, and you are deposited with everything they don't like about themselves. At first, you are able to easily see that, but then you become so focused on your own reactions and on finding proof against yourself that you no longer see where these reactions are coming from, and they become you. This means that the deposition system is well in place, and it only needs to be maintained every so often when the connection becomes weaker, so that the process keeps going. That's why they don't like you to see the real you. Even when you go away, they will still call you, or they will make you feel so bad before you leave, so stressed and so frustrated, that it will last for your entire trip, for example. This way, you don't get to a point where you see yourself without their influence. Oftentimes, the process started when you were too young to remember, so what you experience as yourself is not really you. It is the mind controlled you, the manufactured you. The deeper you go with seeing these patterns, the more you realize that everyone is manufactured until they awaken. The person who shakes the dirt off of themselves onto you is also manufactured and also abused on some level, and the chain goes on and on. When you stop being so focused on your own reactions, you will be jaw-dropped at how common this mechanism is all around you. You might even see it in your own relationships, where it is you who manufactures others. This might be covered from you by narcissistic energy in you, masked for example as good intentions. But finally seeing that thing in you is a good thing, because you must see it in order to dissolve it. To see it, you must leave the narcissistic world. When you are in a conversation with someone whose aim is to make you feel and look poor, weak, and helpless, if you stay grounded and present you will see how they bend and twist the conversation energetically. With words, facial expressions, toxic feedback, and their body energy. It is very interesting to observe. After an initial, seemingly equal exchange of words and energy, if that even happens, they make an energetic move that stuns you and disorients you. But you have no idea about it, because you are so used to only observing your own reactions and then blaming everything on yourself, thinking you don't fit into the world. What they will do, for example, is this: when you tell them about something you have or did, they react in a way that belittles you. It is a strategy, but you might misinterpret it as them being caring. You felt good about what you had or did, maybe even somewhat proud of yourself, in the sense of feeling worthy, not pride in the negative sense. But their reaction transforms the energy around that thing or event or concept. They change it for you, from being a source of self-confidence, feeling good about yourself, and feeling worthy, into something that makes you feel small, embarrassed, like you are never interesting, or even humiliated. You think maybe you said it in a way that made it sound weak, and sometimes that might be the case. But even if it is, that is most likely just a sign that you have been subjected to belittling behavior for a very, very long time. Now you are suppressed and recreate this reality for yourself. This reality was first created for you, and then you just keep recreating it because the mechanism was planted in you. For example, let's say you bought a car. You are happy with it and feel good. Then you speak to someone and they say something like, "Yes, it is nice, but don't worry, you'll get a better one in the future." This seems like a nice comment, but in reality it is a very strong put down, because you were not unhappy with your car. You were actually happy with what you got. Or sticking to the car example, no matter how nice the car is, they will find a fault in it and exaggerate it in such a way that you feel like you want to kick the car or destroy it, because they made you feel so bad about it. Here is another very interesting thing to notice: you don't realize it, but that person destroys your humane connection to the car. You turn against a part of your own reality, your new car, in this case. The devaluation of it is planted in your head. They connect that thing to feelings of humiliation and shame, even though before you spoke to them, that very same thing was a source of joy, confidence, and happiness. It made you feel self-confident and worthy. That is why I prefer to be alone with all my achievements and not share things I am happy about with most people. I make it seem unimportant, and I don't celebrate things openly. This is what allows me to truly enjoy what I have and what I do, and to be happy even about small things. It is because if they don't know about them, they cannot destroy them for me. Now you also see why the whole culture of invigilation is so ever-present. It is about the observer effect. When they see and know what you do, they already have an impact on your reality through the observer effect, even if you don't know that they see and know. I just watched a documentary about Snowden and how governments spy on people, and it is the same force in play, only on a larger scale. When you talk to a narcissistic person who wants to wrap you in the shape of being poor, weak, and helpless, it is impossible to have a nice time with them. You will either have to give in, accept the role they created for you, and let them be the one who helps you and positions themselves as your protector and muscle, or you will constantly have to perform emotional and psychological gymnastics to avoid being caught in that definition. That exhausts you, which makes you more prone to being taken over by narcissistic consciousness, because your immunity to it is weakened. You will also see how they will become angry with you and start to be less nice when you don't accept the role the narcissistic consciousness in them created for you. They start to feel naturally bad and uncomfortable with you, because what fuels them is not getting what it aims for. Their feeling of discomfort is genuine, but you must remember, their feeling of comfort is conditioned on your feeling of discomfort, belittlement, and unhappiness. You must become small, funny, and helpless so that they can thrive. If you want to live and feel good, you will hurt them. You will see their hurt, unhappy face, and that might also push you into the role they need you to be in. You might remember situations from childhood when, for example, if you won a game, your sibling or friend looked hurt. So you would start to lose on purpose, letting them win so they would not feel bad. You sacrificed your own feeling good so that they could feel good. The interesting thing is that they knew you were losing on purpose, and they wanted that. As long as you stayed low, they could stay high. Your empathy, your humane perception, and your humane interpretation of feedback is a great weakness in a narcissistic world, because you don't realize that the feedback is toxic and its only aim is to play you, trick you, make you lose, and suppress you. This does not mean that you should change your humane perception. That is exactly what makes you able to build a wonderful life in humane reality. It only means you must know that the majority of people give you toxic feedback that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with their progress in the narcissistic game, whether they realize it or not. Another thing that happens in such conversations is being wrapped into the idea of being betrayed or mistreated, even when you felt nothing like that happened. This is part of false exposures and false awakenings. You might tell someone a story where there was nothing sad or low in it, you felt good about what happened, but the narcissistic person starts to create a version of the story as if you had been treated badly. By the people you were with, by staff in a hospital, in a hotel, or wherever. You know there was nothing there. You felt good, you felt you were treated well, and you had great memories. But they find abuse in it, and they want to be your muscle, to be on your side. They might even plant in your head that maybe your partner is cheating on you, or that they treat you badly when they don't, or that they might start to. They might start to wrap your partner, your child, a friend, or a sibling into a definition of being stupid, like there is something wrong with them. Or they will say they are drinking too much, because they saw them have a beer once or twice. Here they don't target you directly, but they attack other parts of your reality to destroy the points that make you feel good and worthy. Again, like with the car example, they connect hurtful, negative emotions to totally unexpected and totally innocent parts of your reality. This way, your humane connection to them is infiltrated and polluted. These might seem like small things. They are often done through mere suggestions, a word or two, a facial expression, or steering a conversation in a way that makes you feel something is off with the person, thing, or concept in your reality. They might not say anything directly, but they plant a doubt in your being. Such things are enormously powerful. In this way, many true humane connections are poisoned, turned into narcissistic connections, or broken and devalued, narcissistically conquered as well. Small things done many times over are often much more powerful than big things, especially because you don't see the connection between the cause and the results you get in your life. You have no idea that you are being led into self-destruction and that your reality is being targeted. You take responsibility for your life in a world where everything is connected, and in this way, you never see where things really come from. This is a great hiding spot for narcissistic consciousness, which operates through ever-present connections and exchanges. You must start to see where things are really coming from, not to blame anyone, but to allow yourself to see, and then to close those narcissistic connections. What is being achieved through these conversations is false exposures and false awakenings. I must add that these look very similar, or even identical, to real exposures and real awakenings, but in reality, they are very different. Over time, seeds of doubt and toxicity are planted in your head, and you start to look at a person, a concept, or a thing in the way narcissistic consciousness working through another person wants you to look at it. It makes you see in a false and inverted way. Because in truth there was a true human connection there, the narcissistic consciousness has to target it and destroy it. When false perception is planted in your being long enough, or with enough intensity, you can no longer stay grounded in your own perception. You are taken over by that false perception. These narcissistic exposures and the narcissistic people who perform them are extremely dangerous to your reality, and you must stay away as much as you can. The problem, however, is that when you are in the narcissistic world, it is extremely difficult, or even impossible, to distinguish narcissistic exposures from real exposures, and narcissistic awakening from humane awakening. Only when you run on humane consciousness do things become untangled and clear, easy to see without reacting, as an observer moving through the narcissistic matrix mostly unharmed, guided through inner knowing and the help of humane consciousness.